can hear you.
Okay, perfect. You're the only person I've talked to this morning. Okay, so I'm waiting for that recording to start. Okay, that's good. I guess I will go ahead and start. So we have a couple of things that help people when entering water quality data or learning how to enter it. I have this PowerPoint that I'll be showing you bits and pieces of. I'm not going to totally go through it word for word. You guys can download it from the FTP site if you'd like to take a better look at it. It also has a video in it of how to get started with entering data that I'm not going to show you today, but I will show you live how to enter data into a water quality shell. So, so this is the PowerPoint. Let me see, how do we get out of here? This is water quality entry guidance. So the water quality field measurement and collection data entry guidance. I recommend that everybody read through this before they start entering data. It goes through page by page here. It talks about what a field data sheet looks like. Then it shows what a shell looks like. And it talks about what goes into the shell. And it helps you with problems that you may have or general questions on how to enter data into a water quality shell. So that's super helpful. This is something that I made up when I was learning how to do this, that I call like a helpful tips sheet. If you run into odd things, they may be in here to tell you how to correct the problem. Like one of the big issues that I had when I was learning how to put a calibration date in for equipment was you do not use the slash when you're entering the date. You just enter the numbers for the month, the date, and the year. And then when you click out of there, it will show up like this as the date. So this helps you with little tips. Back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so the PowerPoint talks about what are the computer requirements, what is a shell, how to use the FTP site. The FTP site is where we store the shells, and we'll send you the Swamp IQ staff that you're working with, your liaison, will send you an email telling you where your shell is and what the name is. You download it from the FTP site. This talks about data entry guidance. Oops. Back to that. How to open a shell, how to do basic data entry, important information for first-time users, and how to return the shell back to the FTP site for database upload. So when we enter data into a shell, return it back to the FTP site, and we have an auto process where Monday through Thursday nights, the computer looks in the incoming folder on the FTP site, and if there's a shell in there, it will attempt to upload it. If the shell has problems, kind of in any aspect, it will not load it, and then we'd have to kind of figure out what the problem is with the shell. So let's go to this next one here. Last year, we updated our tools to be compatible with the newer computers. We used to have to ask people to use an old computer in their office to use our older tools. But now we've updated our tools, and that's good news. You can use a newer computer, and I think that's Microsoft Access 16 now. But you don't want to use the old computers anymore or the old 32-bit systems. So if you haven't entered data in a while, talk to us. We'll get you new shells for the upcoming year, and you can use your newer computers. And I think IT has been trying to get us all on new computers over the last year. So hopefully nobody's working on old computers anymore. So this just talks about what is a shell, how to use the FTP site. You guys can take a look at this on your own. This is what the FTP site page looks like. I would give you a username and a password to get in there, or your Swamp IQ liaison would give you that password. So when you go in there, you look for your shell in the outgoing shells folder. You would download it to your desktop. It will be a zipped file. You would have to unzip it before you can do anything with it. So this explains that you'd be in the Swamp incoming and then go to the Swamp outgo, or the, excuse me, I'm sorry, you would start with Swamp QADM and go to Swamp outgoing to collect your shell. And it will be zipped. So this also tells you how to extract a file if you're not familiar with that. This shows you what they look like on your desktop. And I recommend when people are entering a lot of data to just keep a separate folder somewhere on your desktop for shells that you've already submitted to us to be entered, because you typically don't want to delete data from them to start new data entry. You can't, like, say you submit one sample on Tuesday and then you want to do another one on Wednesday. You can't do it in the same shell, because when the our auto loader goes in at night to look at the shell, if it sees something that's already been loaded to the database, it will not try to load that shell again. So each time you're going to work on entering data, you want to download a fresh shell from the FTP site here, or you could keep a fresh unused copy on your desktop and you can copy it and enter data to a fresh shell. So that's a big one. We have had people try to delete data in a shell, and something is inevitably always in there that the autoloader recognizes. So just use a fresh shell each time, and it shouldn't be a problem. So this is the data entry guidance. We have a guidance document that I mentioned earlier that you will want to review before you add data to the shell. This is a new page that I've added to this PowerPoint. So we've had some people enter numbers with a comma instead of a decimal. So what it says here is no, don't use 21,45, use 21.45. If that's one thing that the autoloader does not catch. So let's say you've entered 100 data points and one of them happened to have a comma in it. It will cause critical errors in our database, which can sometimes take weeks to fix and resolve. And during that time, the data is held up and nobody can access the data from CDIN at all until we get it fixed. So just be mindful of when you're entering your numbers to make sure that you use decimals and no commas in a number. Another thing that we ask you to do is really to QC your data entries. Like if you enter data on Tuesday, go back on Wednesday and look at it before you submit it. We have a tool called the Shell Viewer that you can hook up to, and you can see your data all in one sheet. It's pretty nice, and you could just scan down scan down the columns and check what you've put in, and then check it against your data sheets as well. So that's just a really good thing to remember to do before you submit. And then it's also good to have just another person QC your data, and maybe you have somebody in the office who can do that for you. But talk to us. We can tell you how to get the shell viewer. It's on the FTP site, and it's a pretty cool little tool. So this just talks about data entry, data entry tips. We talked about that sheet, the data entry tips. If you run into something weird, it might answer to it might be in this data entry helpful tips sheet. So this is what a water quality main menu shell would look like after you open up your water quality shell. You would be, since this is a water quality refresher, you would be using the data here as WQ. You would click on that, and underneath it says add edit data. You would go to that, and then you would a new window pops up. So when you're adding new data, you would click this button here. This kind of gives you, step-by-step instructions on what you're going to be doing. So it's really helpful. You're going to fill in all of the yellow boxes. And that's where, when you have talked to your Swamp IQ liaison prior to getting your shell, and we will put in your preferences here to make these drop-down menus specific to the project that you're working on. So if you down-click on agency, your agency will show up in there, or whatever agency you've told us to use in your preferences. The project for the year that you're working on will show up in this drop-down menu. And then you will choose a purpose code, which would be like water chemistry or field or habitat data that you would be putting in that shell. Funding is we do not use this anymore. So I do not know how to change this to like a white or gray box. It still is yellow, but you do not have to fill out this funding section or this group sample section. So you do not have to complete those, but you do want to fill out the purpose code here. You want to fill out personnel. You would have given us the personnel, and they would show up in your drop down here. And then you would go on to what your location is, and then adding your data, you go to these separate little tabs down here to add data. And
hey, Tony.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, no problem.
Can you put it in presenter mode? Just the screenshots of the that helps a little bit. Yeah, it just makes it a little bigger.
Okay. Makes it a little bigger. You. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, no, I had it that way when I first started.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, and I will show you all this. I'm just kind of going over this briefly. I will show you all this, and hopefully you guys can see it better when I actually open up a shell. So the little tabs along here is geometry data, habitat, field results. That would be information you're collecting in the field. And then lab chemistry, the lab chemistry /talks tab, is if you collect a water bottle that you send to the lab will send us the results, but you still have to go in here and put your collection information in, which I will show you when I open up the shell. So this talks about what I just told you. Habitat, field results, you'd be putting information in there. This is to tell you that there is a slideshow or it's a video in the next tab. So to start the video, you could come down here and click this, but it's difficult to hear. So I'm not going to play this for you today, but you're going to get it live from me. So, but after this, if you guys want to look at this, you can. So, let's see, what am I telling people here? So first-time users tells you about how to zip the shell when you submit it back to us. There's a process that you would go through letting the IQ liaison know that you've completed the sample, where it is, and there's information that we need you to give us, and the WEMA help desk, so that we know how to log or track your shell submission. So we have a whole tracker for all of the data that comes to us, and we can find out, or you can find out, if it loaded successfully by checking that tracker. So I think that's the end of this. I'm going to go ahead and escape out of here. And we will just go ahead and open the shell. Does anybody have any questions while I'm trying to get this open here? Did I go too fast? Okay. So wait, let me close this again. So you see, here's what the shell looks like in the PowerPoint. It might look a little different because I did the PowerPoint like 4 years ago, and our tools have changed a little bit since then. So this is what a shell looks like once I've unzipped it. You just double click on it to open. It goes to the main menu. You don't have to do much on this main menu except for look for your data here. So if you click on this, you'll see water quality, bioassessment, and tissue. So we're talking about water quality today. I would push this add edit here. And I just did a little, started a sample here today, this morning, so I could show you guys what that looks like. So I'm just going to retrieve that sample. I put in all the information in the yellow boxes here. So it's a water quality event. I chose the protocol. There's the down menu. I chose a station. There should only be like region 9 stations in here. Put the date in, chose the project. There's a couple of projects in here that were specific for this shell. And agency is Regional Water Quality Control Board 9. So we don't do funding. We don't do group sample. I just put a field measure in here and water chemistry. I chose a personnel, put the location here. And then when you come down here to start entering your data, you're going to be choosing or getting the information off of your field sheets. You can put in the latitude and longitude that the field staff recorded. You would put in your GPS unit, the Garmin or whatever it is that you use to take these, the lat and long. And then once you finish that, you don't have to save that. You can go directly to the next tab. And if you have habitat, you would enter all of the yellow, if you'd complete all the yellow boxes here. I think, let me check this just to see, 9:30. Oh, it's not going to let me change it. I think these have to be entered in military time. It's not going to. All right, let me try that again. It's not going to let me edit it. Okay. So when you run into a problem, you can hit escape to go back to where you were. So let's see. I hit edit. I wanted to change this. Just say 01. See if it'll work. Yes, it did. Okay, so that was what I was trying to figure out was we use military time for these for the entry, but it doesn't show up looking like military time. So if you had like a 1 o'clock time, you would put 1300 in here and it would show up. I'm not sure if it would show up at that point. Let's look at that. Let's see if yeah, it does show up as 1300. Okay. Well, anyway, we use military time in there. So if you have morning hours, just make sure to put the 0 in front of it. I originally did 0900. So you would put in your habitat. You would click this down menu here for what you're going to be, what you've collected. I did odor here. If you enter a variable result, which for most of these you will, for habitat, you'd enter a variable result. You do not put anything in the result box. And vice versa. If you put a number in the result box, you will not have a variable result. But you do, typically you leave the QA as none unless you know that there's something here that you need to add a QA code for. You can look up what QA code you need, like if there was an instrument failure or maybe a dry section of your creek. And you can put a different QA code in here, but typically we leave it as none. You would click here for your device and choose what's here. Typically, this one is none. Most of the time for habitat, you're visually inspecting something and putting the information in here. So a lot of times this is none. And you would always leave this compliance code as pending and verification as NR. So once you've gone through and done your habitat, if you have different locations, you can go to the next one, the next record, and start all over again if you have like a different location or a different collection that you need to add. So then for field, kind of the same thing. You would fill in all of the yellow boxes here and whatever replicate it is. And this one's not colored yellow, but we usually use like subsurface or surface. You've taken your measurement at the surface. So I went ahead and added oxygen dissolved in here. I chose a result or, put a result in here and a collection device, and then added the calibration date. Same for pH. I added a result. This one didn't have a collection device. So I put other there. You can put in the comments, you can make a comment here. You could say what device you used, if you're using other. And I put, calibration date here just to see how that worked. And let's do temperature. So we'll say it's so I wanted to show you guys how to do calibration date here. So what you do is you select this whole date that's there, and you just put in the numbers like 06, 06, 23 with none of the slashes here. And when you click out of there, the date will show up. And I don't think it works any other way. I'm not sure. There might be other people who are more savvy with this than I am, but that's the way that I found that it works. So that's through geometry, habitat, and field results. And then when you hear us say we need you to enter your sample through collection data, so like I told you earlier, if you've collected a bottle in the field that you send to your lab, and your lab is going to send us the results, we still need you to go through this in a shell, give us this sample information, who collected it, water chemistry, and you're going to fill in all of the yellow boxes up here, but you do not have to put any data here because down in the results box, because that comes to us from the lab. So you would just complete water grab. Okay, the time is 9 a.m. Whatever the sample type is. Say this one's a grab. Depth. Typically we use -88 in meters, but you can also put a number in there if you need to. Say this is rep 1. And let's say we collected it by hand. Say it's surface. So that's all you have to do for this, and your information is in there. So when the lab sends it to us, we have a place for your lab results to connect to in the database. And that's all you have to do for water quality. Does anybody have any questions now? And I think I'm pretty much done. So
Hi,
if you have
Tony.
any, yes.
This is Debbie.
Hi.
I think it might be useful to show people how to add a field blank, because that was the one thing that, well, I didn't know how to do it in the beginning. How to get a second record here.
Oh, okay. That's a good
for like
idea.
a rep 2, maybe, or rep 2 or something like that.
Sure. Thanks for saying that. Okay. So let's say we've added the water grab. That's our rep 1. And if you want to go and add a rep 2, you would see where it says 1 of 1 down here. You would go to next record. Then you would be in a whole new window here. So you would basically do the same thing. I think that would go under water grab. If you're anticipating something else, you can tell us what you want to, excuse me, show up in that drop down. So what did you say? A field blank? Oh, I'll just say field blank. And then you would do the same thing here, but fill these in. If it was a rep 2, you could put rep 2 here. I think you might still be able to say rep 1 if it's a field blank. And just fill these in, and you're done. So once you click out of there, you're done with that. And you can add as many of these as you need to. If you have more than one, you can do rep 1, rep 2, rep 3. You can do field blanks, whatever, equipment blanks, MS1. If whatever you're submitting to the lab, you want these records to match. Thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate that. And then to get back to your original one, you just click on this previous record arrow, and just know I might not have added the data in there correctly. But what you guys would be adding whatever it is that you've collected and information that you need. So I think that's about it. There may be times when in Habitat that you need to enter a different location. Let's see. So you would go down here, and let's say you took some initial information at the bank, and then you collected habitat information somewhere else, let's say mid-channel, you would do the same thing here. You'd be going to the next window and say mid-channel. So you added some mid-channel information, and you would do the same thing here. You would say, what method, what time, your rep, and then you would enter information down here. Oh boy, I messed that one up. Okay, there we go. And you choose your analyte. So, any other questions? If I went really fast, you guys are, I think I will be able to send out the YouTube link with the recording to everybody who was on the email for the refresher this morning. If you don't receive it, you're welcome to email me and I can send it to you. I'm assuming like within the next week or so, I can have the YouTube recording. And I did attach to this meeting, I attached the guidance and the helpful tips sheet. Then if anybody has questions and wants to download the PowerPoint, let me know. I can get that information to you. And all of us here at Swamp IQ, we are, ready and willing to work with you guys to get you shells, to get you up to speed on entering the sample through collection data, and just hope that it's a good process for you guys.
Hey, Tony, can I ask a quick question about coordinates?
Sure.
So in the geometry data,
Yeah.
it looks like you can put in multiple coordinates. If we have an upstream and a downstream coordinate set for like a reach for toxicity monitoring, for example, is that what you'd like us to add and maybe like put upstream, downstream in comments? Or can you walk me through how you'd like that information to be set up?
So I've never heard that before, but
Okay.
we typically only have one space for Latin long in our database.
Gotcha. Okay.
When you go to a site, and typically it's where you begin your site. Like, let's say if you're going to move upstream or downstream a little bit, it's typically where you begin is where people or near your target coordinates is where you would say, this is the measurement that I took or the Latin long that I took. And if you want to say anything else about like where you ended it, I would just write it down here in the comments.
Okay, sounds good.
We only have one space for this location. So I use this station and this date. We only have one space in the database for a actual Latin long.
Okay, sounds good. I think maybe it makes more sense to use the downstream coordinates then.
Okay.
And then one other quick question. Can you tell me more about what's going on with the button for tox points? What does that mean? Near the save button, there's that button called tox points.
I have no idea.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it's not important.
I don't know what that is.
Mackenzie,
Yeah.
this is Melissa from the Sea Camp program.
Hi.
Let's have a follow-up with Granite Canyon and they can give
Okay.
us some information about, because I haven't entered tox data either and I'd actually have similar questions. So we can follow up with Bren's team.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's do that. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I'm not familiar with tox data either, but I know that you would be using probably details from this water quality tox page, and then you would use this lab chem page. And I think it's kind of just like regular chemistry, but yeah, I'll let you guys talk to, what did you say was the spot people about that?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna click on this and just see I have no idea what this is. So maybe this is where you are putting some tox information. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like some lab data there. So maybe
this is
not for
test
us.
that. I was just gonna say tox points is it's lab information, so I don't think you would have anything to enter there.
Okay, sounds good.
Because we just want you to enter your field collection that would go to the tox lab.
Yeah, the sample collection information. So thanks for that. I never even clicked on this before, so I don't know what it is, but I think typically most of you don't need to use that. So anything else? Any other questions?
Tony, this is Debbie again.
Yes. Yes.
Just back to the geometry data. I just wanted to, for the lat longs.
Yes.
If you don't fill that out, it will just default to the lat longs that are defined for the station in the swamp database, correct?
Well, nothing goes in there if you don't fill this out. This is meant for actual lat and long, where you're actually taking the measurement with your GPS device. But if somebody should say, where is this station? You know, the 901 HSC US1, and there was no actual information, we would, if somebody was asking us, say that it's where the target coordinates are. And those are in the database when we enter the station code. You know, we put the target coordinates. So if you don't put anything in there at all, yes, I mean, basically it would kind of default to the target coordinates.
Okay, because for all the data that I've been entering, I haven't been filling that out because I just thought they were already defined sort of because of the station. You know, I'm using a station that in the swamp data. Yeah.
Right.
So should I be filling those out with the target?
If your field crew put them in there is a difference between the actual and the target. And, you know, sometimes it might be a little bit off from the target, but some people do want to know sometimes what the actual, where you actually collected the data.
Yeah. Often on the data sheet, people would just say that those were known, you know, like, on our data sheets, known that long.
Right. So they're trying to get
they're
as close
at the
to
same,
the target.
yeah, at the same spot basically every
as
time.
possible. Right.
And so, all right. So you don't have to fill in that long. I mean,
you don't have to, but some
okay.
people like to do that and know actually where they collected the data.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, thank you, everybody. I think that was a good overview, and hopefully you all have a really good sampling season. If you need anything, let your Swamp IQ liaison know. If you need shell, and we'll get that to you. And I think I mentioned in the beginning, if you have new people that are coming on and they're going to be doing this for your region, I will have the recording that you can send to them, and any of these other valuable tools as far as like guidance and the helpful tip sheet and the PowerPoint. So thank you all. I appreciate you coming and hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.